Welcome to B2B Marketing Unlocked, the podcast that helps CEOs, business leaders, and marketing executives unlock brand growth. In each episode, I bring on industry experts to share their journeys, lessons learned, and the marketing secrets that drive results, while also sharing my own strategies along the way. I'm your host, Jony Mansilla, founder of Jony Studios, where we help businesses create profitable podcasts and content that drive growth. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of B2B Marketing Unlocked. Today we have Ken Kundis. He's a Chief Marketing Officer at CEI. Ken, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Jony, for having me.
Yes. So I want to jump in and just ask you, how did you get into B2B marketing and your current role?
It wasn't intentional. I would tell you that, as often careers happen, I had left graduate school. Actually, I started my first job out of college was at an advertising agency. Started as an account coordinator, turned into an account executive, got a little taste of sales in the marketing space, and realized that at least at 22, that wasn't for me. Went back to graduate school for journalism, and after I finished, was looking for work, honestly, and ended up getting a temp job with a software company, a financial services software company, and really enjoyed it, and ended up spending 3.5 years there. Really cut my teeth on a lot of marketing and various aspects of marketing from a B2B perspective. And just the trajectory of my career kind of took me in that direction. It was never an intentional, deliberate thing to be in B2B marketing. And back then, we didn't even call it B2B marketing, if I can remember correctly. I don't think that phrase actually popped up until maybe 15 or 20 years ago. So this was at the very beginning of my career in 1990 or so. It just and then of course one job just leads to another, as it often happens.
That is awesome. So you never really had that intention to be like, oh, I want to go into marketing. You kind of went into it and you realized you enjoyed that style of like the business aspect, right?
I knew marketing. That part I knew. But B2B marketing specifically, I that wasn't really in my head. When I thought of it, I had the same kind of dreams that you have about sort of being in the advertising agency on Melrose Place.
Oh,
I was going to have a glamorous job and it looked like fun. And I was a writer, kind of in one of my foundational kind of skill sets is as a writer. And I felt that marketing provided a real opportunity. I had an internship in college with an advertising agency in New Orleans and was able to deploy my writing skills there, and ended up writing some copy for some billboards and some radio ads, and
Oh, wow.
actually for Chef Paul Prudhomme's Cajun Magic, if you ever know that spice. So just kind of got bitten by the marketing bug, absolutely. But really, again, had no deliberate intentionality about being in B2B marketing.
Wow, that's awesome. But you can see that the skills obviously do transfer, right?
Sure,
It's just a
sure.
whole different beast when it's B2B. There's certain things that you have to do a bit differently, but marketing is marketing, right?
100%, yeah.
Nice. And tell me about CEI. What do you guys do as a company?
Yeah, CEI is a company, and I'll be really candid. I'm on week 9 at CEI, and I can tell you a little bit
Nice.
about that trajectory. It was a bit of an unexpected twist. I had decided to go in a different direction when this opportunity came to me. CEI is a 30-something-year-old company, I think founded in 1993, and the founder is still the CEO, a man named D. Raja, and he's very much the kind of the heart and soul of it as well. Still very much the kind of the driving force behind it. Mostly managed services, IT managed services, and talent staffing. So really placing technology people in with clients to solve their business problems. And the reason I was brought on board was really to do a full-on pivot to AI. So the company has been focused pretty much exclusively on, as I said, IT managed services, staffing, infrastructure management, those kind of things. And the founder decided to make this very strong pivot, felt like he had the strong technology talent in-house to be able to build some meaningful accelerators and products for all of his clients, and so began to experiment and roll out some AI based products to his clients, and found that is very much the direction he wanted wanted to go. And so as a result, has decided to make this kind of massive pivot. And that's why I was brought on 9 weeks ago to help with that marketing pivot, because obviously being an AI company that is, fighting for our stake in the conversation around AI is very different than a traditional managed services or staffing company. So it required a little bit more of a marketing touch, more media, more analyst relations activity, all of those kind of basic things. And having come from much larger systems integrators, felt pretty well positioned to do that for the company.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think that's the right direction that he's heading, right? It's
So,
it's
yeah, I
it's
agree,
kind of
or I
crazy
wouldn't
where
be
the
there.
world's going,
Yeah,
right? But it's exciting.
yeah.
Awesome. And so what does your marketing team currently look like? Is it just you or do you work with others on a day-to-day basis?
So I inherited a team of 3 people, two here in the
Nice.
US and one in India. Thing about CEI that was very interesting to me from the very beginning, first of all, was this opportunity to really build something, not exactly from scratch, but pretty much from scratch. So these 3 people had been executing, and CEI last year was 124 million with a budget this year of 150 million. So not an insignificant company,
Mhm.
definitely underrepresented in the marketing space. I won't even tell you what the budget for last year was. The team is also being really heavily augmented. One of the things that our founder is really high on is making sure that we are kind of eating our own dog food to a certain degree. So every department within the organization is required to have at least 30% of their output being accomplished by AI. In marketing, look, we're way higher than that,
Yeah.
because the use cases for marketing in AI are quite a bit more mature than they are in other areas. So at this point, I've got 3 people. I'd say that we are hitting massively above our weight. I'd say that they were hitting above their weight before I joined. Now that I've joined, I've tried to kind of align and focus them in the ways I think that we need to be focused. But I would say every single marketing project, both from a planning perspective and a delivery perspective, are being at least touched by AI. And I would put our AI influenced output somewhere close to 80%.
Wow, that's incredible.
And that's an interesting thing for me, coming from my last role, where I was the chief marketing officer for North America for TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, which is a very large company, 660,000 employees. And I was responsible for a portfolio of $15 billion in annual revenues and had a team of 65 people.
Wow.
So to go from that to this, is very exciting. It's exactly what I wanted for this phase in my career, mostly for my own personal enjoyment. I think sometimes when you work for very big companies, and you elevate to the role of, let's say, a CMO, you end up not doing a whole lot of marketing. It ends up being a
Mm.
lot more about HR and budgets and approvals and all of those things. And
Just overseeing more, right? Like overseeing the
absolutely.
team. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say, like, I went from, being a player to being a coach. And I very much wanted to be a player coach. I mean, I do enjoy the management aspects very much and do feel as though I'm good at that. But, I love marketing because of what I got to do and the tools I get to play with. And, it's fun. I mean, it's unlike a lot of other areas, in corporate life. It can be a really creative and exciting venture. So that's what I was looking for in my next role, and I found it.
That's awesome. And it's so true, when you crack the code, as a marketer, there's so much testing. And once you start cracking it, it just feels so accomplishing, where you're
Yeah.
like, you're serving this company and you're helping them be found and you're helping them create opportunities. It's definitely a rewarding experience, right?
Definitely, and I also think that just the output itself can be fun and exciting. I mean, I was working, one of the AI tools that we use is Pictory, which is for video content, and the ability to have an idea about a video for a new product launch and to be able to execute on that vision, using nothing but sort of my brain and this platform, and developing something in an hour or 2 hours that would have taken 2 weeks. And I know it's scary for a lot of people, and I am glad I'm not starting my career as a marketing person right now.
It's disrupting for
It
sure.
is certainly disrupting, but it's also, I mean, if you lean into it, which I think you have to, by the way, I think it's really exciting to what you can do. And I'm not of the belief that it's machines doing the work, because the idea had to come from me. I'm shaping and framing it in the way that I think is appropriate. So it's still the product of my creative work. I just have much more sophisticated tools at my disposal.
Hmm. Yes, it becomes way more powerful.
Yeah.
Right. And who are you guys currently trying to reach? Who would you say is now? I know you guys are pivoting. Why don't you tell me what is the target market now? What's your
Yeah, I
focus?
don't think our target market has changed so much. So we work with large enterprises. We have, um, if you like a client list, you can probably go to the website, and there's some client case studies on there. But for the purposes of this webcast, I'll just say we work with a predominantly enterprise-sized organizations. You know, a confluence in two certain areas. One would be healthcare and one would be in financial services, but it's way broader than that. One of our largest clients is a grocery store chain. Another is the world's largest jeweler. So we really are working with large enterprises to help solve their business problems through technology.
Nice. That's awesome. And what's working? What's working right now? I know you're new to the company, but from what you know of
Yeah.
the company and what you've been able to kind of start getting onboarded and into the organization, what's been working best to drive brand awareness or pipeline or new deals?
Um, Well, brand awareness we're working on. We
Hmm.
don't have any right now. And we are actually pivoting. The exciting news, and the thing that's kind of on my horizon, is that on the 31st of March, we'll be pivoting to a new URL. We'll be going from CEIamerica.com to CEI.ai. And along with that is that's kind of our transformational moment, if you will. So in terms of brand awareness, that we're ramping up. We're laying the cement of the runway right now, in hopes that on the 31st we'll have our first launch, and that will be a launch pad that we'll be able to use again and again. In terms of business development and sort of lead generation, we've done a couple of what I would call surges, which are focusing on a single product and really tapping our existing market, really tapping those existing accounts, because a company that has been in business for 30 years has MSAs with a great many companies. Some of those MSAs have not been used in some time, but we have them. And so that obviously makes the sales cycle a little bit shorter when you've got an MSA in place. So our low-hanging fruit at this point is really reaching out to those organizations that we have MSAs with and introducing some of these new AI accelerators. And one of the things that we're able to do is sort of automate their managed services approach through AI, which is something that they've found very helpful. Also, helping to go from spec to code using AI, or from code back to spec, or a situation where we can help them plot out what their AI roadmap looks like using AI tools. So those are three of the accelerators that we're using. We just launched a product actually today on LinkedIn called Cosign Match, which is a vector-based talent engine. So one of the things that we do for a lot of our larger clients is that we provide technology talent to them. Those professionals who understand various technologies of some of our partners like GitHub and Microsoft, all of the AWS, all of the kind of the expected players there. And we have developed a technology engine that uses vector technology to do more than just search on keywords and Boolean searches. We can have a much more three-dimensional search based on this vector technology that really identifies those candidates that are great fits, versus just someone whose resume looks like it may hit a certain mark. So that's another area that we're very much focused on.
Nice, more precision. And tell me, to run these new programs, these strategies, that's smart to actually go internal with clients you've already worked with in the
Yeah.
past, right? How does that look like? Are you guys sending personalized email? Is it the founder? Is it, like a BDR reaching out? Or do you guys go direct via LinkedIn? What's
It's
kind
all
of
of
the
the
way you're
above.
approaching?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
all of
okay.
the above at this point. So we don't really. One of the things that we're working on is building out an appropriate CRM. We're
Mm.
currently using Bullhorn as our CRM, which is great for talent, but not as a classic client relationship management system. So we're adjusting that. So lead generation in the classic email marketing sense is a little bit of a challenge, but we are doing some of that. And but also, yes, through LinkedIn, but also really tapping into, a much more of an ABM approach, where we are figuring out we have what we call lighthouse accounts. So we have our 15 largest accounts. So we start with those, and try to identify, knowing the accounts as we do, what would be the appropriate play for which of our accelerators to go in there and pitch. So quite a bit of it is based on our existing relationship at this point.
Mm.
Will we do top of the funnel lead generation, moving forward? Absolutely, we will. But right now, one of the ways that we want to do that, of course, is by having proof points. And you can't have a proof point until you've got clients. So
Yeah.
we are tapping our existing client base to have those first or second or first handful of clients around some of these AI accelerators.
Nice. And I think that's something that companies aren't maximizing as much as you would think, right? I feel like everyone's always trying to be like, okay, how can we get a bigger audience or keep targeting more people that are fresh? But if you're already working with these big enterprises, there's room to grow within each account. And again, like you said, that's warmer. So I think that's a big unlock right there, is if you already have clients that are big enough that could value from the new things you're implementing and could provide a lot of value to them, start there. Right.
It's always the right way to start. And
Yeah.
look, I've worked for, companies large and small that have different orientations and different affects and personalities about these things. For example, I worked for many years at Capgemini. I'm not sure if you know Capgemini, but a large French systems integrator. And we were focused solely on ABM. The idea was we were a 55-year-old company. We've touched every client that we want to touch. We're just going to focus on those organizations that we already know, and building out our wallet share, broadening our contact set, getting deeper and broader into those organizations. I've also worked for organizations where top of the funnel lead generation was the king. They were challenger organizations that were coming up against some of the bigger players, and we really just needed to get eyes on us, and felt that if we got those eyes on us, we would be able to win against the big guys. So it really is dependent on sort of what the corporate strategy is. And I think a true B2B marketing person needs to be able to shift seamlessly from being, I'm a lead generation guy, to I'm an ABM guy from day to day, because it really is going to depend on, where the low hanging fruit is. Where's your untapped market?
For sure. And can you tell me what tools or workflows are you guys relying heavily the most right now, you
Yeah,
or
so
your team?
we're working in HubSpot for our marketing automation. We're not making that sing quite yet, because we have to, for a marketing automation platform like HubSpot to really sing, it needs a good CRM, and we're not quite there yet. But we are also using Figma and Canva for design. Pictory, as I said, we are using ZoomInfo for list generation. There's an AI component to ZoomInfo now as well that we're using. Those are the main ones that we're using at this point.
Nice. I heard, with ZoomInfo, what's cool is I heard you can actually now get like temperature readings of people that are looking for specific services, right? Like
Absolutely,
they're
yeah.
searching more about this, which that can be really, really powerful tool if you're meeting them where they're at, right? Not
Yeah,
just
yeah,
super broad.
skate to where the puck is, right? So
Yeah.
the ability for us to divine those sort of insights is something that, as a career-long marketing person, just blows my mind, because
Mhm.
so much of it for so long was a shot in the dark, and so many conversations that I had at the beginning and sort of the midpoint of my career, where I just said, you're going to have to trust me that we're reaching the eyeballs we need to reach. No need to trust me anymore. I can demonstrate that with real data.
Yeah, that's so true. And what's the biggest challenging you guys are facing? What's the biggest challenge?
This pivot. I mean, I think that we're making a pivot that a lot of companies are trying to make. I think that we have an advantage because we have a really very strong technology background and kind of technology infrastructure. We're based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A lot of connectivity to a lot of the universities around there, like Carnegie Mellon, for example. So we have a really nice feeder for technology people in the Pittsburgh area, which has become a much more of a tech center. kind of unexpectedly, but Pittsburgh's done a great job in cultivating that. So I think that's a natural advantage. But look, we are running as fast as we can to catch up to the changes that are coming in AI literally every day.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. I think something too that I've been noticing, especially when making a pivot towards more of an AI focus, is how do you still keep your uniqueness, right? And there's a right way to go about it, and also a way that can you kind of blend in with everything else,
Yeah.
right? I think there was the creator of HubSpot had mentioned that a lot of these SaaS AI companies are starting to put so much AI messaging, but sometimes what's even more powerful is having it, but in a way that's more subtle, where you still keep the core essence of what makes you unique, right? Because if everyone is going to start putting AI enabled and all this, sometimes that can actually hurt, right? You need to find that balance. And I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with in this moment. How do you see that?
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. In fact, I had a conversation. Again, we have this pivot that's happening on the 31st, this launch that's happening on the 31st. And there was a moment with the executive team where they were saying, let's change the name of the company to CEI.ai. And my recommendation was we can't do that because that would be leaving behind 30 years of business and clients and delivery. And one of the things that this company is known for is its ability to deliver and building really strong relationships with the clients. So we don't want to leave that behind. What we want to do is take that goodness and layer AI on top of it. So
Yeah.
we talk a lot about outcomes. We talk a lot about less hype, more deliverables. It's about creating business outcomes. It's not about your roadmap. It's not about the hype. It's about what can these tools do to solve your business problems.
Mm,
That's the case for every technology
yeah.
aspect that I've been marketing my entire career. It's about solving for the business problem. And so I think that making sure that we are being respectful and clear-headed about who we are and who we're not. I think a lot of companies that have the kind of the dot AI, they're startups, and we're not trying to masquerade as a startup. We're not.
No.
In fact, we are, a 30-year company that has a long and proven history of delivering for our clients. And we're going to take that and we're going to add AI tools to our toolbox, but we're going to continue to be a company that is focused on delivery and on outcomes for our clients.
That's smart. And I feel like that's what clients care about the most, right? Is
I think
still,
it's the only thing they care
can
about
you,
also.
yeah, can you deliver, whether it's with AI, without AI, or is AI going to
Yeah.
make it better delivery? Good,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I mean, look, I've worked for a long time in the systems integrator industry, and a lot of times it's a black box and it's a ton of people, and the client doesn't really care how you're getting it done. All they care about is that you're doing it.
for sure. And throughout your career, has there been any campaign, experiment, or lesson that has surprised you?
I'm not sure surprise is the word. It's funny though. I was working for a company for a period of time. This is probably back in 2014, and I had a CMO at the time. I had come in as the head of alliances, and then I absorbed most of global marketing and corporate marketing as a result of some departures, and I got promoted. But he said to me, he's like, Ken, you're a really good marketing person, but don't become a Luddite. Don't become a dinosaur.
Mm,
And what he was talking specifically about was how well do you know these marketing automation platforms? How well do you know these analytics platforms like Tableau? Do you know demand-based? Do you know, all of these various technology platforms? Because you're going to need to. And up to that point, it's very easy to get a little lazy and a little complacent. But I did. I dug in, and I'm like, you know what? No one's going to call me a dinosaur. And so I dug in, and I learned those things. And by the time I left, I could, open a campaign in Pardot, for a marketing campaign. I could do all of those things. I could pull reports from Salesforce. I could, pull reports from Tableau. I really kind of forced myself to learn those things and to enjoy them, to get some satisfaction out of learning them.
yeah, for sure. I think with those too is at the beginning, it's very like, I feel like it's counterintuitive, but then once you learn it and you actually start implementing it, then it does make your life a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I feel where people struggle is like, I don't want to learn this new software platform, right? I'm so used to doing this on like a spreadsheet or something like that, right?
Or I'm so busy. I'm so busy,
Yeah.
I can't really find the time to do it. I've got 50 hours worth of work anyway. It's funny though, because I kind of did with AI what I did with design softwares back in, let's say, the late 90s and early 2000s, is that I use them for my own purposes, for my own entertainment. There was a period of time when friends of mine, this is back, not exactly pre-email, but around the time that where I would still send actual letters to friends. And I would play with design software and sending them to them. So there was no pressure. There was no, deliverable. There was no boss hanging over my head. I was just learning how to use the tool. And I kind of did the same thing with AI tools. I'm a gardener. I've got a rooftop garden here in Jersey City, New Jersey, just outside of New York. Building my planting and fertilization schedule using AI, just using it in your real life makes the pivot over to using them for work so much easier because you're familiar with them, and you understand the value of them, and you've enjoyed using them. They're fun. I mean, I know a lot of people are really scared of them, and a lot of marketing people in particular are very scared of the AI tools, and I absolutely get it. But they're also a blast when you can make them really sing.
For sure. And like leaning into it is how you
Yeah.
have that major unlock,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, at this point, look, it's a train. You're either going to be on the train or the train's going to run you over. So, the debate is no longer. It's going to happen. It's here. The cow is out of the barn. So you need to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's literally the next, when the web came to be, it's kind of like that next little jump where it's just like everything's going to change how people think about things. And even new careers are going to start emerging from that, right?
It reminds me a bit, maybe not to the degree, but it reminds me very much of the conversation we had 10 years about the move to digital. Everything was digital. In fact, when I was at Mindtree, which is the company where I kind of learned a lot of these tools, we led with digital, and that was our tip of the spear. And AI is more profound in its effect, I think, than that digital revolution was from 10 years ago, where we were digitizing everything from a B2B perspective. But there's a lot of conversations sound the same, which is there's no going back. I mean, once we went to the cloud, we're not coming back off the cloud. We're not going to suddenly start printing stuff again. We're not going to suddenly start having mainframe computers in our offices again. That's never going to happen. Once these seals are broken, there's no going back.
Mhm.
So if you don't lean into it, I don't have a lot of good things to think about sort of where you're headed, because that's the direction, whether you like it or not, that's the direction we're going.
For sure. And a competitor with AI, if you're not leveraging it, you'll be left behind for
Yeah,
sure.
I heard someone say a quote recently to me that I liked a lot that said, "Your job won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by someone using AI better than you."
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do a quick fire round. What's a marketing book, resource, or habit you recommend?
Um, I I go to CMO.com every day. I know that it's an Adobe site, but they've done a really excellent job creating that as a content hub and a destination point for marketing people. I love it. I go all the time, and it's just a great resource to feel like I'm up to date. And their events as well. Like when I go to an Adobe event, they're my favorite events. I feel like I learn the most. I feel like I'm surrounded by my peeps, my marketing peeps when I'm at one of those events. So those are probably the two I would go to first.
Nice. And I think that's really the power of content marketing too, right? Is when they're just adding pure value,
Yep.
then you're associating Adobe with like, your role as a CMO and learning new tactics and kind of advancing your knowledge, right?
I aspire to be like them. In fact, I'm trying to figure out how to do a content hub for CEI. That's my North Star.
Nice. Someone who's recently influenced your marketing. It can be someone personally, or it can be a personality, a leader, someone you don't know, but you watch their videos.
That's an interesting one. I think I would say a lot of the younger people in my life. The ease with which I see people moving from platform to platform, trying to be a sponge, checking my ego at the door. A lot of times, when I was working for these really big companies and I was boss man, and you have to sort of have a certain level of armor on in those moments, and kind of stripping that away and kind of really listening to what younger people are saying to me, especially those who report to me. And I'm a big believer in servant leadership. There's a great book called The Servant, which is about servant leadership, really understanding that as a manager, you can learn so much more from the people that you're managing than the other way around. I think that's something that has really helped me a lot. So yeah, I would say the next generation of marketing people are the ones that are influencing me the most.
Nice. And that is true. I feel as like people come up, they start picking things up super fast and they have a
Yeah.
different way of thinking of things, right? So it's just having that next level insight of the next generation is always important.
And I think that being in a large corporate environment, especially as a senior leader, can kind of calcify your skill set to a certain degree. It kind of gets set because you stop being a practitioner and you just start being a manager. And that was exactly what I was solving for when I left TCS and took this role.
Nice. And what's some advice you'd give to your younger self?
Have faith in your abilities. I think as marketing people, it can be very easy to get trapped in imposter syndrome, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, all marketing does is play with colors and shapes," and they spend the money that we make and all of that stuff. And I think that have a strong foundational belief in the power of marketing. It's real, it's only growing, and you can be a part of the change that's coming, or you can get run over by that change. That's what I would tell myself is, you know, cut yourself a break about the contribution that you're making to the company. It's big, it's important.
Right on. Let's end on that note.
All
Ken,
right.
thank you so much. You,
My
you shared a
pleasure.
lot of wisdom and I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That's it for today's episode of B2B Marketing Unlocked. I hope you found valuable insights to help you grow your brand and scale with confidence. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. Want to unlock the power of podcasting for your business? Visit JonyStudios.com. That's JONY Studios.com, where we help businesses create profitable podcasts and content that drive growth. Thanks for listening and see you in the next episode.